Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Hero Podcast 64. My name is Ryan G from Aligned Data Strategy, and of course, my co host, the real Pete Kirkwood, your success maker, your empire builder, your kingmaker, with our special guest, Arian. Welcome to the call. Pete, what is the topic of today?
Wow, brother, fantastic introduction as always. Absolute respect to you, and really appreciate that. It's interesting because I want to talk about a subject that really comes up when you are going through those processes of empire building, of constructing a life that you want and getting what you are trying to achieve out of it all. So, for example, I've got my event coming up at the end of this month, and we're talking about how to start a revolution in your own life, how to become that revolutionary. And one of my close friends, I put a post up today about how we've built incredible things together, and that didn't come without its conflict, right? And a lot of the time when you're changing stuff, people are fighting against change because they're defending the status quo, or they're afraid, or they really like whatever it is. You know, there's a small group of people who want change, but normally it's about a third who are interested in change, a third who want it to stay the same, and a third who just don't want to get involved, who normally end up defending the status quo. So as a hero, when you represent change, does that mean you always have to be in conflict? Do you always create conflict wherever you go and around you, right? That concept is something that I think is worth discussing, because a lot of people are not comfortable being uncomfortable. They really like a routine. They really like habits. They really like a set pattern. They really like predictable interactions with other humans and their environment around them, and they really want stability. Now, if you're going to step up to create a greater life for yourself and everyone around you, that means you're going to have to create change, and change is conflict. So as a hero, you're going to create conflict around you. Now, here's the good thing, right, is that you have to realize that there's a lot of benefits to doing that. As you create conflict, if you know what you're doing, right? Like if there's no point going and being a heroic builder if your specialty is painting. Don't try and be a hero in the building scene, right? Follow somebody else's lead. But when it comes to your skill set in your area, what ends up happening, this is what I find fascinating. What ends up happening is you end up mastering your skills to such a degree that you're like, see, x to the fourth power of 73y equals 42 divided by 78b. Can't you get that? And they're like, whoa, that is a lot for me to take on board. And you're like, but it's instant, because you have mastered your art so hard that all of the really weird formulas and calculations and patterns and habits and all of the little esoteric little pieces of knowledge just come to you. So such a complicated formula, you don't even actually think of it like that. You just say, but A equals B, it's obvious. And they go, what? I don't get that. So that conflict you create around you in the environment is a result of your specialty, your skill set, whatever it is you're being a hero in. You know, when it comes to the business world, Ryan, you have that same thing where you're disrupting the environment. You're doing it for a heroic reason. So how do you find conflict in that area?
Well, in short, in the business area, it would be named change management. Because as change, I'm expecting to be in conflict already with people, with systems, with data. It's usually those three layers that I'm dealing with. From data is pretty easy. As the company changes, the data or the context of the data has to change, and we need to be aware of that. As a company changes, often the business and IT processes tend to change. But also, and even more importantly, people need to learn to change their behavior, and that's the biggest challenge.
Definitely.
Because often, and we've heard this before, everybody wants to change, but no one wants to change. Oh, yes, if sales get better clients, we don't have to do so much work, or from sales to finance. Oh, yeah, if finance does the job better, we won't have so many bad clients, blah, 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 blah. And then you have the fucking loop, etc. And until we come together, yeah, and
Yep.
not only create awareness, but also acknowledge that we have a problem, that it is a problem to be fixed, that fixing a problem, whatever the problem may be it a relationship problem, be it a actual business constraint, like we're losing clients because we're not selling well, or we're not marketing well, or our product is shit. Until that time, I cannot do my job. Until that
True.
time, we cannot optimally function as a business. And thus we're losing to the market, to our rivals, hell, even to our sister competitors.
Yeah.
Let's make it even easier. Without conflict, I cannot grow as a man.
I agree. I agree, right? Because if you're going to create the change, right, it's an environment that needs conflict introduced to it to induce that change and to create that environment for growth, right? And that
Yeah, of
is, as you say, that is a very manly, heroic task. Carry on. I'm loving it.
course, of course. For instance, I am having one hell of a time writing a thesis. I absolutely hate it. I've been busy with this bullshit for the last 3 years and I'm losing my mind. But I know one day it shall pass.
Mm, mm. Yeah, exactly.
And with that hope, I continue on. I still have to do it. Once the hurdle has been passed, I know I've become a new being. Because not only have I learned from it, but now my mind, at the very least, is free to do more.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing with the women you think about. It's the same thing with the problems you have at work, at your business. One day it will pass, but you have to do the
Yes,
work. Phil
yes.
Jackson, I love his books and his quotes. He was the coach of Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and of course, the GOAT, Michael Jordan. And he basically said, I'm not here to, measure my dick against pro athletes. I'm here to do my motherfucking job as their coach. We have a team vision, and I'm there to move whatever problem the team has, be it interpersonally, be it actual personally, and be it anything to do with basketball. He went so far as to help them with their so-called extreme materialism because at the end of the day, they know they're kind of being treated like slaves, high pay slaves.
But
Well,
they are.
very well, so, but they are kind of treated like
It's the
products.
golden handcuffs, right? It's the
Yeah,
golden handcuff. Your
yeah,
contract binds you to a strict set of rules that you must obey that chain you to a certain behavior and all that kind of stuff. But they're gold. They're nice handcuffs.
they're very
I've
nice
had that
handcuffs, yeah.
life.
And
Right?
the
I had that
conflicts
life.
that come to that, yeah.
Oh, totally. When I managed a multi-million-dollar finance company and I had
Yeah,
access to that kind of money, that those kind of golden handcuffs were stylish as fuck, right? Everyone wanted to be my friend. But I had a certain code of behavior and a certain thing or a certain way I had to live and things that I had to do and responsibilities to be able to do that.
right.
So it didn't give me the freedom that I've created in my life now for sure. So that that part of conflict is very interesting because I see exactly like it goes to so many things we know. No pain, no gain, right? And there has to be a pain. There has to be a reason for change. There has to be something wrong, and if there's a cancerous growth, I mean, it's going to hurt to get a knife in and cut it out, but that is the answer. And I know, like I've been through a situation, right? I've had an open wound and I've poured white vinegar into it. And I
Jesus.
did that knowing full aware of how much that was going to hurt, but I didn't give a shit because I knew what I was doing, right? Like I was way more worried about what an infection would be like than to the health of to the future of my entire body and my limbs. Gangrene's a real thing. But vinegar's gonna burn, fuck it, whatever, right? It hurt, but I knew what I was doing, and I didn't flinch in the decision because I understood the concept. So that conflict that I was creating right in that moment, that's intense, but it's something that you push through. So as a hero, you create conflict, and conflict is something that happens around you. It's like fuel for your growth. It's a side effect, right? Recently, you've been watching again The Witcher, and just seeing how he creates so much conflict to get the job done. Everyone hates him. He's like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. I'm getting a job done. I've got a mythical beast to kill. I don't care about your petty town politics. Fuck off. And
Yeah.
he still achieves, it's great, eh? He still achieves that that task, and he still fulfills that role of being the hero. And
Uh-huh.
those who need to recognize it, right? The path of the hero isn't always easy. You're going to create conflict. Not everyone's going to think you're the good guy. That's not the point. The point is you have to stand up for what's right. You have to do what's right. You have to follow through on who you are and what you believe. And I think that the skill is not in asking a question like, will there always be conflict, right? Because even though that's the name of this podcast, that's the question that people think of. The real question is, how do I choose the conflict of being a hero? Because I can do things that are non-conflicting, but I will have to do things that are conflicting. And the real art is how I do both and when and what way I do that to create change, right? So if you're building a house, the part where someone wants a house built and you say, hey, look, I'm going to build the house for you. They say, hey, that's really cool. That part doesn't involve a lot of conflict. They're happy about that. The part where you're like, it's going to be an artistic vision that you've never seen before. And they're like, I don't know if I want that. They're like, well, I'm an artist of heroic proportions and I'm going to create you a masterpiece. That's where conflict is introduced. But some of it, they're happy with. Some of it, there's change. There has to be balance. You can't just come in 100% conflict. You've got to balance it. But conflict will always be part of the equation.
It reminds me of a lot of things. Via the IMCnation, the logos behind me, we have learned three main, of course, let's show the group. You have the beer version. All right.
It's going on the back of the gi.
Right. Speaking of the gi, BJJ is a perfect example of conflict, or any martial arts for that matter, because you have a resisting opponent and you want to submit them. By definition, there's a conflict of interest. He wants to defend and submit you, and you want to defend and submit him. It's usually going to be a him. And in that, you kind of see what happens in business as well. When you have opposing wishes, even then, desires, there might even be a chance that I need to be let go because I want something else. And a lot of people would rather be let go than get sick at work.
Right. That's where the skill comes in, because the true master, especially when it comes to communication, because communication is like a skill set that overrides all that pairs with all other skill sets. So the
Right,
amount of effort I've put into my communication is incredible for what it can do. But it's when
right.
I pair that with my ability to see the future potential in another human being, and then I pair that with communicating it to them in a way they can take advantage of, that's the magic. It's the combination. So that ability to communicate is a way you can soothe the conflict. You
Funny you
can
should say that,
go on.
because let's think about House, the House series.
Oh,
It's a perfect example of uh, an, an absolute master in his craft. I would almost say a master communicator to some extent, because he does know how to communicate, medicinal advice to such a degree that is almost theater. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, like he's like a master, but he's almost like a master of sarcastic communication, not straightforward communication or something. Like he's a little bit of the nutty uncle round the bend, obtuse professor, but he
Yeah.
is a master.
They are usually the more fun people within whatever facility. They are usually the more fun people.
Totally.
But if you look at how House deals with conflict, the whole reason why we watch The Witcher, detective series, House, is there's very much conflict, very much in life and death scenario. There's very much ethics involved a lot of the times. And if we simply, quote unquote, overanalyze the situation, you start to see without the salt, you don't have great popcorn. You need the
True that.
conflict to have a good
True that.
story. Else it's just a random feel-good story that doesn't have a proper plot. You'll get a Mary Sue character that does everything right and everybody loves them, etc., etc., etc. And that's not reality. If you look at the book of Michael Singer, The Surrender
Mhm.
Experiment, where he goes
Mhm.
about losing a lot, being in conflict with people stealing from him, and even worse, framing him to the point where even the national security and the FBI get involved. He and a lot of people are innocent. People died from cancer.
Mhm.
That's how
Mm.
long his trial went. While he started his company, or his companies, I should say, out of the goodness of his heart, helped right people, build a tribe, build a community, just for one to completely fuck up and destroy his reputation. To the point where innocent people are seeing him as the villain.
Yeah.
And going back to not being okay with not being okay, he decided to still be okay with it because it's outside of his control. He knows 100% that if he decides to go against it, not from a place of, oh, I'm not going to win this lawsuit. Of course, I'm going to win this lawsuit. I will do whatever's in my power. And if I lose, well, I'm Wafati. So be it. And if I lose and I have to live this life, I will live the best version of that life. And in that, we start to see heroism. It is the combination of the solid but kind, the just but kind king. In times of conflict, we go to that king, that spirited avatar, to ask for genuine advice, where he is both the representation of the yin and the yang being the stoic. We are men of power, we are men of conflict, we are beasts that are made for conflict, because without the conflict, prey would just walk to me and offer themselves to me, and that's fantasy. That would be so rare that it would be confusing. Remember, there was this random scene where a cheetah ran towards a gazelle, and the gazelle was just giving birth, and the gazelle decided to abandon her baby, and both the baby and the cheetah looked at each other like, "What just happened? This is the logical." And the cheetah just sat with his prey, confused, like, I don't know what to do anymore. This is like so outside of the norm. I am conflicted that this happened. Let's find your mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a certain dance, right? There's a dance of conflict that they're used to, and when that's upset and there's peace,
Mhm.
there's just confusion.
Exactly. But confusion is fine, because we're just confusing. There's a chance now to step back. One of the things I wrote down was conflict is the chance to relearn what you've mastered.
Mm, I like that.
Because it's the same thing with BJJ. I'm good at wrist locks. Every new role, there's a new chance to learn how to apply it. In business, I'm a business and data analyst. I think from those
Mm,
glasses. I
mm,
think from wearing those kind of hats. I think from the perspective of being a consultant, a coach, someone who genuinely wants to help. But if I want to truly help, when there's conflict, let's truly look at whether we're looking at a symptom of a bigger problem. Or is this truly the big problem? Let's say the big bad evil thing. Because yes, the
absolutely.
system doesn't work and blah blah, but is it truly the system? Or is it something deeper? So the things like interviewing people and creating a fish gram or fish diagram where you have like different topics, and we simply ask, okay, what's associated with what? Yeah. And then we start to see a pattern. And if this means this, so it would mean boom. Oh, we're having problems logging in, blah blah. So it might be a system thing, and IT says, no, you guys just keep forgetting the passwords. And then all of a suddenly we start to see a pattern emerge. And then we start to stress test our hypotheses. And 9 out of 10 times we're right, or at the very least closer to whatever problem we truly need to solve. It's the
Mm,
same thing in a fight. It's the same thing in business. It's the same thing in war. Yesterday
you're
I had a,
exactly right.
yeah, exactly, because everything follows the nature code. What counts for one field, regardless of what the field may be, business consulting, real estate, communication is the end all be all. Even if I do my job well, if I can't communicate, it's over. And even more so, if I can't deal with change, meaning conflict, because change will cause conflict, I will
Mhm.
not be a good consultant, because by definition, when I'm hired, I am there to bring in change,
Totally.
regardless of what role I have. What are your thoughts on that, Pete?
Well, I absolutely 100% agree with what you're saying, because the fascinating thing is what you're doing is you're talking about having the skill to diagnose the pain, right? Because
Yeah,
pain is a symptom that there is a problem. It's nature's signal for it, and that pain can be something you see a doctor about, and something you see someone like me, a life coach, about. It can be in your business, it's someone you see someone like you about, in terms of that data when it's painful, right? Sales
yeah,
aren't performing, whatever, da 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 da. But what really jumps out at me by that is straight away I was reminded of your upcoming event, Pain into Profit.
been profits, yeah.
It is exactly where the same thinking as the Chinese word for crisis is the same as opportunity. I don't even know if that's true. I know the saying, right? And it means that in the pain point is where the money comes from. It's how you master that skill. It's how you do that. It's how you become the person who diagnoses to
Mhm.
create that opportunity, create that result, because that's the mastery.
That's true.
And that is exactly where being a hero, you're creating conflict, but you're managing conflict, you're mastering conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So to create an entire lifestyle with the characters that are like a family, right, that are balanced amongst their different personalities and skills in an environment that I have and all of that, I've created that revolution in my life, which I'm getting into in my event, right? That is me balancing the conflict amongst all the different people and the personalities, which is incredibly challenging to do because you're working in other people's relationships. So you have to know how to play a third party. You have to know how to do something in the fifth person by the person. You have to know how to set a top spinning that will work on a Chinese whisper principle. And that is where you can picture the master dancing on a tightrope to the music as it sways and it wobbles, and you can balance swords and juggle things like that up and down. And the chaos is a beautiful performance, elegantly handled. That is a conflict. All of that is I mean, the tension it creates in an audience watching is just, it's incredibly conflicting. And that is where the hero is truly in their power, mastering their art, when they're performing that unique skill that makes them the hero of their story in that moment. Because everyone deserves to be the hero of their story in their moment. It's available to all of us. You know, if I'm the lead singer, there's the moment to be the hero, but there's also the moment for the drum, for the drummer to have the drum solo and to be the hero. But there's even a moment for the sound guy to be a hero when he gets something to come together perfectly and pulls the performance together. You know, sure, a million fans might not know the sound guy, but the people who care about the sound guy and rely on the sound guy, they are fucking grateful for the sound guy being a hero in that moment. You know, and that is how the thing works. Everyone has their own story and they're playing a character. It's up to them to be the hero and to wade into the conflict, right? Oh, fuck, it's going wrong. It's going this way. Hey, I've got this. Do that. Do this. Shut the fuck up. Get over there. Fix this and that. Bang. Put that together. We're on. Bum.
Exactly.
Solved.
Exactly.
Away. And that ability to master the conflict is what defines the hero in that moment of heroism, as they master the conflict and create that storyline. So yes, there always will be conflict for a hero.
I'm willing to challenge that. I don't think it's simply mastering the conflict. I think it's mastering the inner turmoil while dealing with the conflict at hand. Because as we learned during this week is, you know, right? It's close, but it's not what you're saying, because you should take, as we've learned this week from ACD, that would be our spiritual guru from the IMC Academy. What are we resisting about the situation? Because not all conflicts are created equal. Some conflicts are pretty fucking easy. We have a red light. I fucking stopped the car. I'm in a hurry, but I'm okay with coming a bit later. So there's no. So what's a conflict for a serious conflict with someone else doesn't necessarily have to be a conflict for me.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the thing that's look, I'm loving Arian's comment at the bottom there. So about this being a great topic, and Ryan, you're getting into that level where talking about the conflict in such metaphors, I hadn't really gone into the inner side of things. We're coming up to that sort of half-hour mark in this podcast. We'll go, because this is the kind of stuff I'd really sit down and teach with someone one-on-one, right? This is where we get deep into the knowledge. But you're right. It is mastering the conflict internally, as well as for the external performance, right? So your internal performance has to match your external performance in your mastery of the moment and the scene of the conflict, right? You have to remember the story you're trying to create in the moment,
Exactly.
right? I'm trying to create a life, yeah, but my life's a certain kind of a story. If you notice the post I put on my social media, check me out, The Real Pete Kirkwood on Instagram or Pete Kirkwood on Facebook. That is a replica of a very, very, very prestigious car that I have helped my brother achieve that dream. We have this entire village because him and I have worked to that. I've helped him unlock his imagination, and he has created all of this. And in return, what he does for me is just incredible.
Mhm.
It's that creating the exact life you want with the best possible people, and not taking anything else, not compromising on what you really want in your life. So that ability to achieve that, that's what I'm getting into in my event. And honestly, this is just going to become plug after plug, and we've been going on for about half an hour. So
Exactly.
I think I'm ended on that note. I can't. I'm really looking forward to getting into teaching some of this stuff, because I've been through some fucking intense shit lately. You like
Mm.
I've almost lost my I've almost lost my foot from a fucking flesh-eating fungus, but I've beaten it. But it's
Welcome to New
yeah, that's
Zealand, people.
I haven't said anything about that, so I just leave it at the end of the podcast. But now I've got this motherfucker now. It looks like a horror movie still, but it's healing. What do you
So
mean?
I like how this podcast went from conflict to reasons not to visit New Zealand.
Hey, this shit can happen to you anywhere in the world. I didn't think it was. I didn't think it would ever happen to me in my country. But oh, look, I literally am that person. I get so focused on my shit that I don't pay attention to other things in the world. And this is me being reminded about the peripherals of my environment.
You said
So
something related to conflict just now,
yeah,
paying attention. If you
totally.
assume perception creates reality, then how big of a problem is the conflict really? If we face the conflict so many times, it's not that big a deal. And the conflict is usually in relation to what we want. Yeah. What do we
Well,
truly?
yeah,
Mhm.
I do see where you're coming from, but I mean, it depends on how you do it, right? Because if I look at it as in my role as a mediator, I often help two people come to an understanding and come to an agreement who don't
Mhm.
mesh well together. Because
Yeah.
as soon as you can start getting people to connect who don't normally connect, don't naturally connect, you can start achieving insane things with human power. It's just insane.
Yeah.
So I love my life, man. I really love my life. It's so much fun. But often I'm not in any conflict, but I can see they are. So the conflict's external to me, even though I'm coming to get involved in it. So it's a matter of perspective.
Right.
Uh, like they and hey, look, if I do it wrong, all of a sudden I become a conflict, and the perspective switches to me. I've in my past, like I've learned, right?
Mhm.
I've fucked it up, and I've become the person who's at fault because, well, man, sometimes someone will say something and you'll bank on them, and you'll really just you'll really bet big on them to follow through with what they say. And
Right.
if they don't, it won't.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that is true. And basically, what you're going towards is in relation to conflict, what is the story that's truly being told? What is the story you're telling yourself? What is the story, the narrative that's being told? And if you take that technology, you start to see, oh, I'm looking at it at the conflict in a totally unproductive way. I'm
Mm,
looking at it as a nuisance instead of looking at it as a potential for new transformation. And
I
isn't
like it.
that, in essence, what it means to be a Renaissance man? It's not I am now a Renaissance man and that's it. No, it's I'm now a Renaissance man and I'm delving deeper. You can't turn marble into a fucking Michelangelo by just looking at it. I mean, it would be awesome if you could, but that's not how, what's his name? Da Vinci, was it that made it? How he did it.
This well, the skill is so multi-layered. You have to be able to see the piece of art and bring it forth.
Mhm.
You know, it's fascinating because I know that my visual abilities to see things that don't exist, right? Like my imagination is incredible. My reach is not as good as some other people, right? I know some. I live very close to some incredibly talented engineers. Right? It's like I can come up with the ideas. They can create those masterpieces, but
Right.
that's because I've thought about that, right? For the majority of people, it's Tesla's quote that stands out for me. Man's reach exceeds his imagination.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense because we think we can do some things. Wow. If I look at myself a year later or a year before this, I would not imagine even having a podcast, let alone having multiple podcasts, let alone living the life as a consultant, let alone having extra income, let alone finally overcoming the fear of driving cars to the point where I am now in negotiations on having the company pay for my own personal Mercedes-Benz, and it just keeps stacking. And once you start to realize the power of not only facing conflict, but using conflict as a ways to get profit. That's the whole theme of the event that I'm doing. Not tomorrow, but I moved it to the 7th of October. The whole point of turning pain into profit is not only to overcome the pain, but to become a a new version of yourself through the pain. That it's like investing in a dividend stock that keeps paying you. Because now that I've overcome driving cars, I don't want to sit in public transportation anymore. It's over. I'm saving so much time. It's ridiculous. I used to be like so about public transportation. I could just sit there, read a book, I'll arrive when I'll arrive, take my time. And now I'm basically doing Need for Speed in the Netherlands for no reason other than, okay, let's see if I can beat my time yesterday and still, find the quickest way to work.
Welcome, welcome to my world. This is why I have a rear wheel drive 6-speed sports car,
Mm,
and Mia's back on the road today as well. So and the weather's just starting to get right for convertibles, right? This is why I have one of my dream cars out there on the grass. Oh no, it's moved. It's on the gravel at the moment. And I got another one under construction in the shed, and there's a few other ones. And like the video that I showed today, that is my dream car. Now I don't own that car, but the brother does, and I mean, if it was running, he'd let me use it. He'd let me drive it. At the moment, it still needs a couple of things.
of course.
It's a complete ridiculous weapon, but that's the point, right? Because it's literally like Tom said. He said, I've got all these cars. That's the best thing is I can go to a car meet and I've got all these friends, so I can bring all these cars because I can't drive them all myself.
Ah, I see. And
And
in that, yeah,
people don't think about having a tribe. They don't think about getting together with the right people who have different skill sets. What I can do, oh, it's fucking deadly what I can do. Like you lend me a car to turn up to the car meet in, and then watch how I can speak and what I can create in the crowd.
yeah,
Versus if I just turn up in my own car. You watch how I can take your gift and spin it bigger for back to you. Watch.
yeah, yeah. You know what's funny? That's in essence what coaches and consultants do. We see that which you
Fuck yeah.
cannot. And
Fuck yeah.
and if you look at from a conflict perspective, it's like life as the biggest teacher giving you conflict because it sees that you have the potential to overcome it. Because it
Mm-hmm.
knows, be it life, be it the universe, be it God, be it Allah, whatever, be it the gray aliens, I don't know. be it whatever it may be, it knows that once you've overcome it, you will have such a new life that I never thought that overcoming, that fear, that conflict,
Mhm.
that type of stress would lead me into living my life in such a different way that I cannot wait to face it again. Now the problem is, fucking in parking and out parking and, you know, fucking backing up in the right way. And I'm now learning to actively face challenge within the context of the
Yep.
previous conflict and thus continuously getting my profits. It's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with dealing with women. It's the same thing with, this is funny. I rarely talk to my barber about women. We only go there, we just make jokes. He cuts my hair, I pay, I get the fuck out. The day before yesterday, Thursday, I go. He stops mid-cut, grabs his phone, and then shows, and he just had to ask me, what does this mean? And mind you, I am very confused. But I figured, okay, this is a conflict I'm not used to seeing here, but let's
This is
handle it.
funny.
It is. And I just figured, is the universe telling me something? And as very Michael Singer-esque, very Michael Singer-esque, if given the
Mm.
chance to deal with conflict, what if this conflict might be the biggest blessing I'm getting? Whatever I'm resisting, out of the window, it doesn't matter. In the here and
Totally.
now, carpe diem, amor fati,
Well, I
whatever,
mean,
I
what
can deal with it.
opportunities await you from addressing that, right? Like, what opportunities await you from addressing that and helping him in that moment from the next moment? So carry on, brother.
So basically, of course, as a consultant, I need to know context. Context is always king. Content then follows. Before I can give my content, I need to know enough context, like what are your relationships, what are your status, did you add the freebies, have intercourse, blah, blah, blah. And of course, very much under the character of buddy, like, yeah, you have a girlfriend, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Just to loosen up. It's playing that character, it's playing that theater. Because I use theater as a way to get all the information I can to be an effective and efficient coach and consultant. Because if he decides to ask me for advice on the topics that I know very well, I need to be smart about it. It's like a sniper.
Yes,
I need to look at all my options and weigh carefully.
your
Carefully,
delivery has to hit.
it has to hit. And it damn sure hit because once I knew what was going on, and because of the constraints of language barriers, because she's a Romanian that speaks English and he does not speak English, and he's trying to learn English, you can see where there might be some misunderstandings. While
Fuck yeah.
she's like very enthusiastic, he's not getting it. Not that he can't deal with women, but it's a language problem. And the insinuation might not be what he's expecting. And just we taught him like, easy. When women want to help, they really want to help. From the place of they finally get the chance to do something from her own experience. And in some way, I think, and I've seen it with a few of my exes, they love nothing more than to help the people that they love, especially if they truly love you and shit. For instance, that the injury he got years back, the moment she got a chance to help out, she was absolutely excited because she's a medical student. And what if we could take that excitement into all the things that are bothering us, be it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? We start to see conflict is truly a blessing. The pain we feel is truly a blessing because without the pain, I can never be the man that I am today.
Well, that's it because it's chosen. right? Like you choose, when you choose it, it eliminates a whole bunch of pains that you don't want. Choosing pains that you do want, right? I choose the pain of being conscious about what I eat, versus the pleasure of just eating whatever the fuck. But that also saves me a pain of how my body responds and my sickness levels, my energy levels, and that kind of stuff.
Of course.
Like, I mean, I look at how I've been healing what I've been working on here.
Yeah.
And I look at the way that they say to treat these things. And I'm like, this ain't going to be no 21-day thing. It said 21 days. I was like, fuck, this is going to require a lot of work. After 3 days, I'm looking at it and I'm like, just looks like all of the little other things that are part of my life are adding up. The way that I use my energy, my intention, my meditation, rest, looking after it, all that sort of thing, diet, all these sort of things I think about. And I focus what I'm doing on the tasks I have. And that level of consciousness helps you navigate all the different conflicts, all the different pains that come up, and you become proficient in dealing with them. You just, it's like, I've got that picture in my mind of like a speed boxer on the bag, like you're just going through them, because it's habitual, it's rhythm to you, it's routine, it's your practice. Yeah, bring me some more. And honestly, I would keep going, but this party is about to get started out here, brother.
Exactly.
There is a party going on tonight. We've got another birthday happening at the village, and there's tables and things that have been moved. I can hear the last.
Fuck it, let's show the crowd. Let's see. What do you see outside? Let's be somewhat a part of it.
At the moment, this is what we have at the moment, is we have things like, where are we? There's tables and stuff. Over here we have
laundry,
other tables and things. Yeah, there's the pizza oven over there. There's a fridge being cleaned. But there's a few things that need to get done. So I'm gonna have to get, brother. We're gonna have to wrap this one up.
Fantastic. So the main takeaway would be, one, whatever you're resisting towards the conflict, let it should go. The conflict is only a blessing to make you into whatever better man that you can be, whatever better woman, whatever consultant, whatever business. Because once you overcome the constraint, the conflict, you now have the chance to not only get more revenue, better clients, but also outcompete whatever competition is in the market or in your life. And on that note, Pete, do you have any takeaways?
Look, I think we've sort of killed it on this one. If Arian had any questions or anything you want to quickly mention, anything? No, but you said you enjoyed it, brother. Good to have you here. And
absolutely,
look,
good podcast,
I think,
guys.
Appreciate it.
Fantastic, brother. That's what we love to hear. You know, just try and share some perspective that gives and creates some value. And I think we really started getting as far as we could before anything else is getting too deep. We have to leave it here, or we'll be going all night.
Yeah. So on that note, it has been a very fun podcast. Thank you, dear viewers, for listening in. Arian, special thanks to you as well. May your life never be the same. Be the best. Walk the rest. And should we meet again, let's meet on good terms. And should you face any conflicts, fire them, for they will feed you. This has been the Hero Podcast 64. My name is Ryan G, with my co-host, the real Kirkwood. Good night, good morning, good evening.